Welcome to the Parkinson's Project podcast. The Parkinson's Project seeks to erase the stigma associated with Parkinson's disease while empowering and inspiring those dealing with the affliction to live life to the fullest. The Parkinson's Project aspires to build an engaged, supportive community while examining the journey of living with Parkinson's disease through a positive, empowering perspective. Here is your host of the Parkinson's Project podcast, Tim McNiff.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tim McNiff, and I'd like to welcome you to the Parkinson's Project podcast. The Parkinson's Project seeks to eliminate the stigma associated with the disease and instead to empower and inspire those who are dealing with this affliction to live life to its fullest. The intent of the Parkinson's Project is to share the stories of the people who have and are living with PD, share best practices from the medical people who are on the front line working to find a cure for it, and we're going to hear from the advocates, those people who are helping Parkinsonians deal and adapt through diet, exercise, and of course, through love, understanding, and unconditional support. We're going to try to keep each and every one of our episodes to about 20 to 30 minutes, but we do reserve the right to extend to a second edition if that discussion, that conversation is delivering tangible benefits that we think is content that can really benefit all who engage with it. And we want to engage that content with you and you with us, because the ultimate goal is putting ourselves out of business. We get to a point when there's no need to talk about PD any longer. But we do need to talk about it now. And it is with that we welcome Klaire Purtee to the Parkinson's Project podcast. Klaire, welcome. Hi. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Klaire. We're originating this podcast from suburban Minneapolis, Minnesota. Where do we find you?
In Portsmouth, Ohio, which is right along the Ohio River.
Did you guys recently get some snow?
We did, which is sometimes rare. Some years we don't get any snow, but we did this time. We got 6 or 7 inches.
I'm considering you an honorary Minnesotan then. For the duration that snow is on the ground, welcome to the club.
Thank you. I think I used to love snow as a retired teacher, but when I was a teacher, I used to do the snow dance on the night before, but now I don't like it so much anymore.
How much does it take to get a snow day in Ohio?
Well, where we live, we have a lot of hills in southern Ohio. It's kind of spill off from the Appalachian Mountains, and probably 3 inches.
So a lot of kids got a snow day recently, is what you're telling me.
They did, but now that everything's gone virtual, it takes a little fun out of it.
there is that, right? Technology. Yeah. We were looking for guests, and when we did that, we actually intentionally were looking for a caregiver, and you were suggested to us as something of a twofer, in that you have Parkinson's disease, but you also find yourself in the role of caregiver. Will you explain?
Yes, my husband has been struggling with emphysema for several years and has been in a hospital bed. He gets in and out, but he's pretty much bound to his bed. And then in December of 21, we found out that he has lung cancer.
Oh, no.
So that puts an extra level of stress on things, but it's okay. And then Abigail, who's my youngest daughter, she has severe disability. She's 26, but she doesn't walk or talk, but she needs 24-hour care. So I have Parkinson's, but it's okay because I'm the healthiest one in the house. And I'm taking care of Abby and Tom.
I laugh, but it sounds like your plate is extremely full. And you just referenced the fact that you're a retired elementary school educator, but you are still an educator outside the home.
Yes, when I retired from elementary school, I went ahead and I teach college English part-time as an adjunct instructor.
Because you just didn't have enough on your plate at home.
Yeah, well, in all fairness, it's really kind of an escape in a way. It keeps my mind busy, keeps me physically busy. and it's just a way to get out of the house.
Where do you teach,
I love
Klaire?
it. At Shawnee State University.
Oh, I got a feeling there are some lucky students there for sure. Let's
you.
talk about your history with Parkinson's disease. When were you diagnosed? And prior to that, were you aware of any sort of a history of PD in your family?
I wasn't aware of any PD in our family, although my sister had essential tremors, but we just kind of blew it off at the time. And 2016, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And later my mom, when we were talking to the doctors about it, Dr. Changizi from Ohio State University, she was really thorough in looking at my family history. And we believe that she might have had a form of Parkinson's when she passed away, but it went undiagnosed.
So you are diagnosed with PD, and your reaction is what?
Well, when I found out, I got a little teary-eyed for 30 seconds. And then I sort of snapped out of it and just left the building. I thought, well, okay. And it took a little while to digest that. It did.
You gave yourself only 30 seconds.
Right.
Is that sort of the way you kind of naturally approach things?
Yeah, it is.
How do you maintain such a buoyant attitude?
Well, I'm not sure really. It's a learned behavior, actually. My mom was the iconic woman of strength. And when she went to have a mastectomy, I'll never forget this. She went to have a mastectomy and she walked in her high heels and her pantyhose and her dress and her makeup and her hair fixed and everything. And she just marched right in like she was going to the prom. So she was really a good role model for me. And I've friends and family, and I'm just consider myself really lucky. All my needs are met and no sense crying about it.
That's a wonderful attitude. I mean, I think there's something for all of us to learn there for sure. You came to our attention because you're the second person on this program that we've talked to who has undergone Medtronic's DBS therapy. I do want to talk to you about that in a moment, but first I'd like to talk a little bit more about your PD journey to that point of where you had the therapy. Prior to your DBS surgery, how did the disease manifest itself in you, and how did it affect you trying to do your job in the classroom?
Well, first it started out with the obvious, the tremors. When I was driving a car on the steering wheel, my hand would shake, and I used to try to hide it from my mom because she worried about me all the time, and I didn't want her to know anything might be wrong. So then it became, so I was holding my hands like this, squeezing my hands down below my waist so that they wouldn't shake. And eventually just got, so the tremors got worse and worse. But in the classroom, when I was teaching elementary school, I had fourth grade, and there's a little boy in there by the name of Troy, and he was so funny. And they all knew I shook. I didn't tell them what I had, but I just knew that I had these tremors. And when I pass out papers, my hand was shaking really bad, and then I hit this little boy in the face. And he said, I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." And he said, "Miss Purtee, those hands are lethal."
That's from a fourth grader, so about 10 years old.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was really funny. And it kind of broke the ice, and I just laughed it off. It was funny. My husband called me shake and bake.
It helps to have a good sense of humor, does it not?
It really does. It really does. And, you know, my feelings are my fault. That's my mantra.
Explain.
Well, I got this from a therapist, actually. He was always saying, your feelings are your fault. So I put it into first person, my feelings are my fault. Meaning, however you react to something, whatever you're feeling, it's your job to correct it and make it better. No one else is going to do it for you. So that's kind of where I got this attitude from.
I think that's lovely. I mean, honestly, I think that's something that all of us can learn from, and I appreciate you sharing. As you mentioned earlier, you are on home duty for both your daughter and now your husband. How are you able to handle all of that responsibility and the physical nature that has to come with that, with everything else that you have on your plate?
Well, a lot of people say to me, I don't see how you do it, but I really don't do it all. I just prioritize. And sometimes the laundry goes undone, or the dishes go undone, or something trivial that may be important to other people, but it's not important to me. I just let it go. And I've learned to maybe take the stress out of it. You know, when my dishes aren't done, I've learned how to just say, well, that's all right. I've got more important things to do. But I do have help. I have Ohio Medicaid is really good to its disabled people, and they provide a caregiver 2 days a week. So I have that. And also we have Dayhab, what they call Dayhab, which is where my daughter goes to a rehabilitation center every day, 5 days a week. And she just loves it. She just loves it.
And then you get out of the house and you go educate some kids and save the future of this country, and we're all okay.
Yeah, well, I try.
That's all we need, Claire. Just keep trying. Let's get back to it. Let's talk about the DBS procedure. In layman's terms, what is DBS, and why did you ultimately decide to go that route?
When I was first approached, when the doctor first approached me about it, I said, no way, I'm not going to have a hole drilled in my head. There was just no way. I pictured this 18th century drill, you know, like this.
Sure.
And I just said no. But then as the tremors got worse, I started to consider it. And after I talked to the surgeon, I just was sold on it completely because I trusted him. I guess that's what took the fear away, is I trusted him completely. He had such a happy demeanor. And there's a transmitter. They do two surgeries, actually. They do the one where they insert the lead wire in your brain. And then they do another surgery where they insert the transmitter in your chest. It's like a pacemaker. And then a wire connects. I don't know if you can see it, but a wire underneath goes up to your brain. And that's what controls the tremors.
Yeah, I can't see anything at all. I would not, just from where I am right now, looking at you through this technology, I would not think there was anything different about you whatsoever.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, that's part of the beauty of it.
So what is the payout? I mean, what does it, you have the transmitter put in your chest and they drill a hole in your head. They're putting what in your head, and what is the connection? What does it do?
Well, you know, to be honest, I really can't answer that question because I didn't ask a lot of questions when I had the surgery. I didn't want to know a lot of details. I just said, just tell me basically what you're going to do.
That's a lot of trust there, Claire.
And I just said, okay. I knew they were going to wake me up during the surgery to see if they were connecting to the right spot. And they did. And it wasn't real traumatic at all, really.
So they wake you up, and how do they determine whether it's connecting to the right spot or not? They wake you up and do what?
They move my arms back and forth. I think I'd probably need to talk to her, or maybe you need to talk to the doctor about it. But
right, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I mean, so just kind of, like I said before, in layman's terms, just sort of understand why you would go through this, and ultimately you have the surgical procedure. And you're finished with it. You're done with it. What are the benefits? What has happened to you?
Oh, okay. The tremors stopped as soon as they connected it. They had to wait a couple of weeks after surgery, but as soon as they connected it, the tremors stopped completely. That is a big thing because I couldn't tie my shoes, hold a cup of coffee, fix my hair, put on my mascara. I wasn't able to do any of these things because I shook so much. So that's a big thing. Now, it doesn't take away the disease. It doesn't cure the disease, but at least it takes away the tremors. And my hands are stronger. I can open a jar now. I can hold things better without fumbling. And my handwriting. I always pride myself in my handwriting because I'm a teacher, I guess.
Sure.
But my handwriting is back to normal now. So everything feels normal to me. And I forget I have Parkinson's, which is the beauty. That's the biggest thing, I think, is that when you get the surgery, you forget completely that you have Parkinson's and you just go on with your life.
I've never walked an inch in your shoes, much less a mile, but that's no small thing.
Yeah, really, because when I was shaking every day, it was a constant reminder that I had Parkinson's. And of course, people sometimes would say something, oh, you look so cold or something like that, in innocence. But and it started a lot of rumors at school, that kind of thing. But anyway, it just takes away the constant reminder of it. And then later I'll deal with it step by step. Whatever happens, happens.
I think that's wonderful. While you received obvious benefit from your DBS procedure, unfortunately, you did have an initial complication. What happened?
Well, I had the surgery first and it was successful. Everything was fine, but I had a little spot on my head that itched all the time and it was kind of crusty and I kept picking it off. It was like a little tiny scab, but I did not think anything of it. I didn't even tell the doctors about it when I went to my follow-up appointments. I just forgot about it. Well, after about a year, it wasn't healing. So I called the doctor and sent them a picture and they said, you need to come right away to the hospital so we can check it. And they did surgery that night. They took out the lead wire. They didn't have to take out the transmitter, thank goodness. It was infected. I didn't have any symptoms other than being tired all the time, but I'm tired a lot. So I didn't really pay any attention to that. And then 3 months later, they put in the new DBS device and everything's fine again. But that's how much it's worth it to me, is doing it basically 3 brain surgeries in 18 months. Who does that?
Nobody. And you said as a result between that first and second procedure, you told me that there was actually a silver lining to getting that second surgery.
I brought my show and tell stuff. This is what the first looked like. The controller to the transmitter, and this you'd have to hold up to your to this transmitter. And now all I have is this little beauty.
Oh, you're kidding.
Cell phone, kind of. It's like a phone, but it doesn't work as a phone. And it can adjust. I haven't had to do it yet, but if I start shaking, it's programmed. The doctors program it so I can adjust it to go higher or lower. So
that's amazing. And that was just months between the 2 surgeries.
Yeah. And it'll probably be a chip before it's all over. Wow. I want that surgery too.
So, stupid question, the dumbest question, the biggest fastball right down the middle of the plate. You would recommend this procedure to someone else who qualified?
I absolutely would. And another reason why I forgot to say this, that another reason why I went ahead and did it was there's a window of opportunity to have this surgery. And it's when you're young and or healthy. Nothing else is going on with you. Because the older we get, the chances of something else happening, cancer or what have you, could interfere with their decision whether to give you the DBS or not. So I had this opportunity, this window. I decided to go ahead and do it, and I'm glad I did. Because if you wait until you're too old or you're too sickly, they probably wouldn't do it. Although a doctor would have to speak to that.
Well, I am so happy that you were able to qualify for this, and that you did fall under this, had the effect that it has on you, obviously. How long have you had Parkinson's, or that you've been aware of? Like how many years?
Probably 6 or 7. It was 2016 when I was diagnosed, but of course the symptoms came up before then. It wasn't until I had the tremor that I knew I needed to see a doctor.
So I ask because I'm thinking about sort of the arc of your treatment and what you've experienced to this point, because I want to ask you what you would say to someone who has been recently diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and has come across perhaps this content in their search, their quest for information about what they should do next. So to that person who maybe has just found out and has given themselves, like you gave yourself 30 seconds, maybe they need a little bit more than that to process this whole thing and decide how to best move forward. As a result of your journey with this so far, what would you say to someone who's just been diagnosed?
I would say what the nurse said to me when I walked into Ohio State University. She said, it isn't a death sentence. And that made me feel so much better, that my perception of PD before I got it was a lot different than what it is now. So it's just like a chronic disease that you have to handle and deal with as the problems come up. If you don't get the DBS surgery, that's okay too, because they have medications that can control the tremors. But one problem I had was I got sick from the medicine. So that's another reason why we went ahead and did the DBS surgery.
Well, I'm so glad you found that, and I'm so glad that it's had the effect that it has. I'd like you, if I could, ask you one last question, and this is something I've decided to close every one of these interactions with Parkinsonians with, because it has sort of a universal.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I say one more thing?
No. Yes, absolutely. Of course you can. What's on your mind?
I'm sorry. I forgot to mention this, that the doctor said to use my brain and my body at the same time to get things like lay a ladder on the floor or something like that and step through it. Or in my case, I bought a dance mat so that you're using your brain and your physical body at the same time. And the incumbent bicycle too, of course. She said that's one of the best treatments for it, to delay the disease. But exercise is so important. But anyway, that's all.
You want to get into this, the importance of exercise along with your therapy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. I think that's a great tip. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for tangible advice from people like you who are living this, who are walking this walk, this journey, and offering it with others. And what I was leading to is, I can ask you this question to kind of close with. If someone has come across this podcast and they are not directly affected by PD, or maybe they don't even know someone who is, can they still play a role in helping to eradicate this disease? And if so, how might they be able to do that?
Well, of course, there are always foundations and things that they can donate money to, but actually there may be someone who has Parkinson's that you don't know about, that you can't see the signs of yet. So I'm not sure. Say the question again. I'm sorry.
I'm just asking,
I hope you cut that part out.
It's okay, because I asked because I was approached by someone who had been recently diagnosed with Parkinson's to work on this podcast with them. And I said, I don't know the first thing about Parkinson's disease. And so I approach every one of these interviews like that. I don't want to ever come off as if I'm an expert or I know anything about it. I'm always trying to learn more and trying to elicit more from the people who are in the life to help others. So my question was, if someone, take yourself back even 10 years. If you had come across this whole Parkinson's project, this content, and you said, I want to do something to help, what might that be? How can someone who's not a Parkinsonian, or perhaps isn't related to someone, doesn't have this forced upon them, how might they still be able to impact the community in a positive way?
Well, first of all, to respect the privacy of people who have it. And because even I wasn't quite ready to share yet. In fact, I can't believe I'm even doing podcasts because I've always such a reserved person and I keep everything very private, but eventually came out of my shell. But I think that probably just when you meet someone who has Parkinson's, to encourage them and to also respect, their privacy.
So you did have some real reservations about doing this podcast. And I told you, if we did this interview together and you didn't have any fun, it was 100% your own fault. No, I said it was all my fault, right?
My feelings are my fault, right?
So we've reached the end of it. And how did we do?
That was great. That was very relaxing. It was great. That last question, I couldn't answer, but
you did. I mean, I think if I heard you right, I think what you're telling us is sometimes we're going to run across people who aren't really ready to say, I have Parkinson's disease. And that's one thing I have come to learn on this, is everyone's journey is different. And people, sometimes the shaking and the uncontrolled body, that's something that people have some real hangups about. But if you saw someone whose hands were shaking, maybe don't cast judgment, maybe don't just offer some sort of, support. It just in being kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like my disabled daughter. There are people who won't come within 10 feet of her, and there are other people who will come right up to her and start a conversation even though she can't talk. And I appreciate that so much because I don't want anyone to be afraid of her. So I guess
she's not a threat.
No. So I suppose that would segue into Parkinson's too. When you see someone shaking, just to act normal and not try to make a big deal out of it.
It's not contagious.
No.
We know that. Klaire, I am so thankful that you were recommended to us, and I am thankful that you chose to participate in this interview. And what we'll do is we'll put this out, and there'll be a video and an audio portion of this, and we'll let you know when it's coming out there. But what I think is so important for me is I think so many people are going to see this, and they're going to see that attitude has a lot to do with it. And you just seem you have like a lot on your plate. And you seem to have such a wonderful attitude, and you laugh so easily that I've really enjoyed the opportunities that we've been able to interact with each other. And I certainly hope you won't become a stranger.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to put you back in the waiting room, but don't go away.
Okay, I won't.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that didn't happen.
Okay.
So here we go. All right, Klaire Purtee is a caregiver and an educator, and as you just saw, she's a woman who refuses to let Parkinson's disease get the best of her. A lot to be learned there. Klaire, you are an inspiration, and we thank you for joining us and all that you've done to educate the children and now the college students at Shawnee State University, and we wish you, your kids, and of course your husband, nothing but the best going forward. The Parkinson's Project seeks to be a place where you can come for a range of information about PD and to find support for yourself or perhaps someone you love. We encourage you to check us out on Facebook at the Parkinson's Project. You can also find the Parkinson's Project podcast wherever you find your favorite podcast. We'd love to have you check us out and rate us so we can continue to grow and continue to give support in the ongoing effort to eradicate this affliction. This has been the Parkinson's Project podcast. For executive producer Pat Porcia, I'm Tim McNiff. I want to thank you for joining us. We look forward to meeting and working with all of you as we seek to build a supportive, empowering community through all aspects of the Parkinson's Project.
Thank you for engaging with the Parkinson's Project podcast. Be sure to look for more content on the Parkinson's Project Facebook page, and we'll see you right here on the next edition of the Parkinson's Project podcast.